Psychology is all around us. Psychological elements can be seen throughout the lifespan, from birth until death. Films are a wonderful tool to explain psychological theory and occurrences in our lives. Characters interact within each frame of film psychological concepts. The films we remember most and view multiple times engage us by capturing the presence of these psychological dynamics in an authentic way. Please join me today, Dr. Catherine Marshall Woods, media psychologist and film consultant, and my guest today, Candace Patrick, with her film, The Fifth Room, on the best psychology in film. Okay. Welcome, everyone. It's nice to see you today and joining us in Best Psychology in Film. Today, we have the pleasure of speaking to Miss Candace Patrick regarding her short film, The Fifth Room. Hi, Miss Patrick. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing well. How are you?
Good, Candace. My apologies. I know that's what you prefer. Um, well, tell us a little bit about The Fifth Room. It's a fantastic film, so I'm excited to hear your view on it.
Yeah, thank you. So The Fifth Room came out in 2020, but we actually filmed in 2019. And it's about this, it's a 20-minute short film drama, and it's about this woman who experiences this traumatic event, which triggers agoraphobia. What's interesting is this film, it came out in 2020, which most of us know that was the year of the pandemic. And so I remember when it came out, most people were like, oh, this is good timing. I'm like, well, actually, no, it's just, I wasn't, it was filmed in 2019. It was written before then. So I had no idea a pandemic was happening. So, don't blame me for not warning people. This was actually inspired by, my experiences. I'm not agoraphobic, but I started working remotely actually before the pandemic in around 2016. It was the first time I started working from home. For my company. My company moved to a different state to let me work remotely. And I was like, okay, this is great. Like this is before everyone did it. And then I'm also a proud introvert, which most people don't believe that, but I am. And a few years after working from home, I realized that I would go days and wouldn't talk to anyone. I hadn't left my home, and I was fine, but I was like, huh. I think it's been a few days. I think it's been like a week or so. And then I just thought like, I wonder like, is that a thing? Because it's like the society is like built to kind of, especially now, even more so, to like minimize human contact if needed. Like you can order delivery for groceries, you can, order laundry service, you can get like medical service just via Zoom. Like it's all kind of set up that way now. And so I wanted to look into that more. And then that's when I found out, oh wait, this like some people actually like this is a mental health a challenge that some people have that can be triggered by traumatic events. So I really did some research into what can trigger that, and then that's how I kind of developed the story of the Fifth Room. So it's about this woman who's going through that, and also it's about friendship as well, which I think that one's a little lesser known theme that people don't notice, but it's also about the friendship between the main character and her best friend, who's kind of been, doing her best to support her. During this time where she's been trapped, in her house for so many years. So, yeah.
Let us have an opportunity to see a little bit of a clip, and then we'll come right back. We'll join you on the other side.
Hey, Lexi.
Hey, Nat Nat.
How are you?
Girl, I'm glad it's the weekend. I love my Saturdays.
I mean, I didn't mean it like that.
Yeah, same here. Something about Saturdays.
Sorry, Nat.
It's fine, Lexi.
Well,
How are you doing?
are you okay?
Yeah, Lexi, really, I'm fine. Everything's okay. It's just Saturday.
I know the answer's never gonna change, but
Do you want to try going outside today?
No, not today.
how was last night?
I mean, did you go into the room? I know it's coming up on an anniversary.
Yeah, you know what, Lexi? I really don't want to talk about this right now. Not today. Not on a Saturday.
Nat? Natalie? Hello?
Hello? Natalie, are you there?
So, this film really gets at the emotionality of what it may feel like to have agoraphobia. And I wanted to share with the audiences a little information about agoraphobia just for us to locate ourselves in what the film offers. According to the Mayo Clinic, agoraphobia involves fearing and avoiding places or situations that might cause panic and feelings of being trapped, helpless, or embarrassed. A person may have a fear of, let's say, public transportation, being in open or enclosed spaces, standing in line, and being in crowds. This anxiety causes fear that there's no easy way to escape or to get help if anxiety feels or gets overwhelming. An individual may avoid situations because of this fear of getting lost or falling or even having like a physical reaction like diarrhea and not being able to get to a bathroom in time. And many people who experience agoraphobia also have panic attacks and they avoid situations because they don't want to have another panic attack. And when I say panic attack, I mean like tachycardia or heart racing, sweating, feeling of nausea, shaking, lightheadedness, feeling like you're going to die because you're having chest pains or a heart attack. I also wanted to note that the prevalence that's stated, at least from last year, Harvard Health stated that 0.9% of adults had this condition last year. 2% of the population had this when we include adolescents. And one thing that I found interesting about the research is that the National Institute of Mental Health indicates that 1.3% of people have experienced agoraphobia, before. So it does not mean this is a condition that you will always experience. It may be something situational happening where these symptoms arise. Um, you noted that you didn't have, let's say, an experience of having agoraphobia, yet you ended up writing a film about agoraphobia. So tell me about that.
Yeah, I think it's just you know, um I think it's like, yeah, I was having this experience of not leaving my home and and then researching like okay, what does that look like? And then finding out it's an actual condition. But it's interesting because when I was telling people about the film and about like agoraphobia and like, have you heard of it? And they're standing there right in front of me, like, oh, I think I have that. I'm like, well, I don't know, you might not. Like, because it's like trying to like put some, additional perspective into it, right? Because, I didn't necessarily have a fear of leaving my home. It's just I was very comfortable not leaving my home. And then it's also, I know that, you're the professor, you could correct me if I'm wrong, but it's also, I think in most instances where we see it displayed in media, it is normally someone who can't leave their home. But it also could be, like if you went a grocery store and maybe there's a robbery and you were there and all of a sudden you don't go to that grocery store anymore, so there's like all these different scenarios that to my understanding could be defined as that, but so often we see it as a fear of leaving the home, because I've seen it even in recent years on some other like TV shows of them kind of portraying that, and so I really wanted to look at, one, I wanted to do it with a Black character, so we could see mental health being played out by a Black woman, because Black women, Black people experience mental health conditions, and it's not always brought to the forefront, and we're often left kind of just dealing with it without putting a label on it. So I did want to put a label on it, and I wanted to see, like, what is this traumatic event that could happen to her that could like cause this to happen, and what kind of routines does she set up to help like keep up this, help make her feel some kind of safety that she kind of lost, when this event happened. And yeah, it was more like, it's like, man, I'm not leaving my home, and that's weird. I haven't talked to anyone, and I'm okay. And then I'm like, is that a thing? And then it was like a Google. I'm like, oh wow, this is a thing. And like, let me explore that more, So that's kind of how it kind of came. So I really did want to like I wanted to do it as authentically as possible, even though I know I haven't experienced that. I know people do experience that.
You bring so many important aspects to why this film is important. Let's start from the beginning. You note that some of your friends may have said, maybe I have that. And you're like, yeah, maybe you don't. And I think you're right about that part of it, is that maybe you don't, because this is a true mental health disorder, which means that in order for that to even happen, one may feel like their life has changed because of these symptoms, that they're causing them a lot of distress. These symptoms are. These symptoms are also impacting their way of navigating the world, where you noted that they may be avoiding situations or avoiding places, right? That these symptoms get so overwhelming for a person that they feel like they cannot return to that place where those symptoms had happened previously, for fear that they're going to happen again. And that's really like the nature of panic attacks as well. And it leads people to go indoor and stay in their home. But you're right about that. Agoraphobia is much larger than just staying in your home. It also can be with large crowds, like people won't go to concerts because they feel enclosed, or even like take elevators because they have the same level of fear. So those are all under the auspice of agoraphobia. I agree with you that, first of all, how brave you've been with putting a label to this, because many individuals, specifically in our community, will say, oh, I see this happening, and not necessarily have the label to go with it, to note that this is a true mental health disorder. And so it's really brave to be able to depict a character of color, a woman who has this condition, and you make it as such, where it is undeniable that she's experiencing distress because of it. At the onset, we just get to know her, and these routines that you articulate that she puts into place, there's a normality to her life, really. I mean, it looks like, getting dressed for work and, doing the typical morning day routine, only to see how um, distraught not only she is by the decision that she's making, and because of these symptoms, but also how disturbing it is for her friend to have lost a part of her because of these symptoms. So the idea of friendship really is significant when it comes to this film. I wonder, what has been the feedback you've received? I mean, my understanding has been through a number of film festivals. What is the feedback that you're receiving from the African American community of portraying a person of color with this specific disorder?
Yeah, I think it's mostly like, just like awareness of what this condition is and the label, and also like really shining a light on like not being the strong black woman, which is like so often happens, especially like we're not well in multiple situations, but in this, film, as a result of grief and death, and and seeing how what happens when someone doesn't necessarily bounce back to this strong black woman that you expect them to be, or do they, right? Because like you said, in the way that we open the film, you don't know that anything's different. You just see this woman going through her routine, and then you see it's a very specific routine, and it's also a little bit of OCD in there as well, and like these are not things that we normally label. So really, like, putting a black woman in the film without, it's not like it's a I wouldn't say, it's not written as a um like a black character. It's written as a person, right, where anyone can have this experience, but I wanted it to be a person experiencing this, so we could see someone from our community that's like might be struggling with this, because it's like you said, like we might see it and not even know that, oh wait, I have a friend who actually hasn't happened, they haven't left their home in a while, or like, oh, I notice I have this thing when I don't want to like go to this place because this happened to me. So, I think, being intentional without being like, yes, I'm a Black woman, I'm struggling with agoraphobia, and like having a way for people to relate to it that way, I think is the goal. And so yeah, most of the feedback has been like just like acknowledging that this is like a very traumatic event, and like she was not just this strong Black woman who bounced back and kept going. Like this is what the after effect was, and seeing how the community kind of was coming around to support her, whether that's her best friend or even the paramedic, like trying to figure out how to help her in the space that she's in.
Um, It's interesting to me that you said this character was not written to be, let's say, a Black woman. You chose for that to be the case. And I agree with you. And like when I was actually watching the film, what came to mind was so many other films of portraying agoraphobia in particular that had white women who were portraying that specific disorder. And within my research that I did for this episode, I didn't see any specific breakdowns of how race plays into prevalence, like how many people, let's say, of color say that has this diagnosis, and how many people who are from other ethnicities. It didn't necessarily have that. And by my own clinical experience, I don't see many individuals of color who have this condition in particular. And maybe that's who I treat and, the population that comes to me for therapy services. But it is not so common for us to receive those therapy services. And in part, previously, it was because they were in their home and people came out to actually do therapy and came to people's offices. But now that they're virtual, I imagine that there must be an increase in those services. And yet, individuals with color may not be necessarily considering that this is a thing, this is a disorder. But I do want to highlight that if an individual is feeling distressed by the fact that their world has become so regimented, that there's a specific routine that one has to engage in order to feel safe, that they're really struggling to be able to leave their home for fear that something bad will happen. This is a condition that certainly does very well with psychotherapy. Sometimes medication is prescribed as well. But as the statistics actually did say, that many people do move forward from this condition. So I do just want to highlight that to our audiences, that this is a condition that one does not have to live with for the rest of their lives if they do seek help. And now that I've set that pitch, why don't we take a break for a moment, and we're going to come back because I'd really like to explore with you about the friendship aspect of the film as well.
At UDC, we turn potential into power. Located in the nation's capital, we empower both local and international students. As a proud HBCU and the only land-grant university in Washington, D.C., we combine a legacy of excellence with a forward-thinking approach. We prepare tomorrow's leaders to drive innovation and create global impact. When the world needs change, it will find it at UDC.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us again on Best Psychology in Film today. We are talking with Candace Patrick regarding her film, The Fifth Room. Again, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
This film is such an important film to introduce individuals, for those who are unaware of the diagnosis of agoraphobia, the fear of being in enclosed spaces or even out in large spaces, which many times in its most severe state can cause people really to be able to feel the safest within their homes, so they become housebound. And unable to leave their home, even during really traumatic experiences that are happening within their home. This film in particular does so. We'll talk about that at the end, but it talks also about the importance of community, that when individuals do have a mental health condition, how important friendship is, how important community is. Tell me, Candace, about the importance of putting that aspect in the film, that it's not just a film about the individual going through their mental health condition, it's also about who they rely upon as well.
Yeah, so in the film we have the main character is Natalie, who is the one who had the traumatic event that kind of sifted her life. And then we have her best friend Lexi, who has been there with her the whole time. So in the film you'll see like she has this pattern of five, right? Like she was a family of five, she lost her family, and she set up this whole routine to help her kind of go on. And Lexi is her, best friend. And this was a big shift for Lexi too. She went from having this best friend, girls' night, go out on weekends, whatever, to all of a sudden her friend is not leaving her home. And all she could do is like show up and like support, right? So she knows her routine. She knows like what days of the week are like triggering for her. She calls her like clockwork and makes sure she's okay. And she just like shows up when she feels something's off. And so that's, it's kind of going into that, check on your strong friends thing, because this is like a shift where Natalie was always this, strong friend. She had this whole family, and, this is not something you would innately know in the film, but something you can like make assumptions on. And so this shift where, Lexi's like expecting her to be okay, but she's not. And like just finding ways to support her, in the ways that she can, which is like outside of the door of her home, and so that's a lot even for Lexi to keep showing up and supporting her and not knowing if there is an end in sight, but just trying to be there for her friend. And I think that's, the entire community that can like be around a person, but and it can also, it's been like 5 years. So Lexi also could have been like after year one, be like, okay, well, you go and get help or not, but I'm about to go on. But Lexi is kind of like, no, this is my girl. I'm going to try to be here and support her until something changes. I'm going to check in to see if she wants to come outside. If she doesn't, that's okay. And so I really wanted to kind of highlight that, relationship in the film as well.
Yes. You know what came to mind when you were talking is really like the loss that the friend also has. Like Natalie, the main character, loses her family. Clearly, she has had a devastating loss here, but also the individuals who love her also is have experienced the loss as well, not just of the family that she had, but also now of her in specific ways of how she can show up in the friendship, and how important it is at times for friends to also be willing and be open, receptive even to receiving mental health services, psychotherapy for themselves, especially if you are supporting someone over the course of 5 years, and how different that might look from day to day. And like you said, with no end in sight, we don't know if her friend is going to be supporting her for one more day or for the next like days of their life. That is very difficult for friends as well, that the friend who you're supporting, they don't have the emotional space to be able to support you. So it's really a begins to become a one-sided relationship. And it's nice when other individuals are aware that if I'm going to be giving in this way consistently, I also need help and support myself.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think just thinking about like the anxiety that Lexi is experiencing, dealing with her friend and not even knowing, or not dealing, but trying to support her and not knowing if she's okay or not, because she only has this, you know, external, communication with her, and like it's trying to put the pieces together to see if she's okay or if she's not. So that has to be a lot of anxiety that Lexi herself is experiencing, and like deciding if like, I don't know, should I be more concerned? Like, should I just like get someone to break the door down, or should I just say accept that she's okay and like kind of move on, you know? And I think that's a challenging experience that Lexi is having as a friend. So.
I don't want to give away too much, but the end of the film, we see a breakthrough. And so basically, you highlight what NIMH note, National Institute of Mental Health, noticed that for many people, they are able to move forward, and you show your main character is able to. And I'm wondering, were you intentional about putting a bright side to this? Was that a bright side ending, actually? How do you see it?
Yeah, I was intentional. I wanted to show like a way like out of the house. Like I wanted to show that like, you know, yes, he's been struggling with this. Yes, it's been many years. There was some like foreshadowing to show like things were a little off, things were breaking in like her cycle. And you know, that kind of led to that. And you know, I do think that it is a bright side, but it's also it's like the beginning of a new journey, right? This is the first time well, I don't want to give it away, but I think it's the beginning of a new journey for her. So it's not like, okay, now everything's okay, but it's like, okay, now is this next step in like her healing. And that's like a whole new like a journey for both her and Lexi. And you know, I think that's what I wanted to show. I wanted to show that there like can be a way out of this, like a healing part of this point in her life, I guess. Yeah.
Any final words, Candace?
No, I just, you know, I think, you know, you know, I hope that people watch it and find some kind of connection to it, if not themselves and with someone in their community. And you know, it can then point out that experience and put the right language and terminology to it that they can get help and support and figure out how to you know, you know, get out of their situation and figure out the resources that they need or their community needs, their friends need to help them heal, you know, from whatever you know, traumatic experiences they may have had. So that's kind of that was the goal, and that's what I'm, you know, hope that was uh like hope that was what was I don't know, received from people being able to watch the film. So
I think that's lovely. This film, The Fifth Room, is a wonderful film to be able to have a visual understanding of what agoraphobia can look like for people, what it could feel like for people, and to, again, make people aware that remaining in one's home and experiencing that level of fear, potentially even having a panic attacks as a result of those fears, that then keeps someone enclosed. And as you noted, the word trapped. Really, individuals require support, friendship, and again, when needed, mental health services. This is something that can be overcome with support of mental health professionals, as well as, again, also loving support. And the film just hits on all of those aspects. So thank you for that.
thank you.